thank you so much for joining Cheese Hangouts. We are at the American Cheese Society Conference in Pittsburgh. It's my sixth conference, so tell me your name and your company and how many years you've attended the conference.
My name is Carlos Yescas. I run the Old West Cheese Coalition in the United States, and my company in Mexico is Lactography. I've been coming to the American Cheese Society for 6 years. My first one was in Canada, right? So it was
Montreal.
in Montreal. It was very fun. I love Pittsburgh. This is a good conference. Really what is new is, as most people will know, I travel a lot for work and, really trying to find what is happening with traditional cheesemaking practices around the world, and also, even with my own business in Mexico, trying to promote traditional cheesemaking in Mexico. And I have had now the opportunity for the past 3 years to be judging at the Brazilian Cheese Awards in Sao Paulo, and then I have also had the opportunity to go and visit Colombian cheesemakers. And after seeing all of this and through social media, really meeting a lot of cheesemakers around the continent, I really now see that there's so many wonderful cheesemakers in Chile and Uruguay and Argentina, but also Brazil and Colombia, that are ready to break out, that they're like right there and ready to be seen and known. And they're cheeses that we don't even understand because they have a whole history to them. Of course, Latin America didn't have cheese before the colonial powers arrived, but then because the geography and the environments are so different all in Latin America, the cheese really changes. And so there's a diversity of cheese that exists, that is growing, that cheesemakers are getting really some recognition in their own countries, and I think that I hope very soon we'll start seeing them in the United States as well.
Are most of the Latin American country cheesemakers using milk from cow or sheep or goat?
So most of them are using cow's milk. There's some use of goat's milk. There's actually very little to almost no sheep's milk.
Yes, because of the heat?
It's because of the heat in some of the countries, but because in places where there's sheep, in Latin America, for example, Argentina, is mostly used for wool. A lot of the good wool and also a lot of the good cashmere is coming out of Argentina, so they use it more for that than for dairying. And Colombia, of course, now it has cheese making made of buffalo, of water buffalo. So there's that is also happening in Mexico. Not huge like cow, but definitely there's some there. Most of the breeds that are used in Latin America are Holsteins, brown cow, Swiss, and then also Cebu in Brazil. And there's a whole Cebu used for some of the traditional cheeses of Brazil that tastes very different because the milk is very different.
Is that milk richer in fat or richer in protein? What is it?
So these are animals that are very well accustomed to heat. These are animals that were brought from the South Indian continent, and so they are more used to the heat. And they also live in places where there's heavy rains, and so they eat very lush pastures, but their milks are very weak. They're not very full in fat. They're very not weak that they don't have the flavor, but is mostly water content. And so some of the cheeses ends up being very acidic, more lactic in taste because of it. But it also is good because once you develop that acidification, and some of the cheese making process is through demineralization of the milk, then you really control for some of the pathogens because they cannot develop in those conditions of acidity.
That makes sense. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think it's fascinating, and as I started looking at it and really learning about it, and there's a lot of academics that are doing research as well. They're like, They're doing this research, and it's fascinating because it has a completely different bent on animal welfare and feeding of animals, and so.
Well, you know, the Festival of Cheese is tomorrow, as we all are aware of. Do you have one area that you're just going straight to for testing or tasting?
Right, I'm always in love with blue cheeses, so I always try to go for the blue cheese table and really try to see what is happening in there. I think blue cheese making in America has sort of like some standard bearers, you know, like the thing made Roe Creamery or Pont Reyes, but I think there's new cheesemakers making blue cheese in America that are fantastic, like the ones from Blue Gray Barn in Massachusetts, and then you know, other wonderful blue cheeses that are made in other places that I'm always excited, and I always want to hear from the cheesemaker about what sort of like push them to make blue cheese, because it's not the obvious option ever.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you later at the awards ceremony.
Definitely, thank you.